What's up, everybody? So I've been getting a ton of questions on if they should float their needle or ride on the tube. So in this video, I'm going to break down and show you the difference between the two and what I would recommend for you going forth in your tattooing journey. If you're new to this channel, I'm Brandon from Tattooing 101, and make sure you're liking and subscribing down below to keep up to date on all the new content we make each week. So let's get into the difference between riding the tube or floating your needle. So this is a video breaking down riding the tube or floating your needle. So what I mean by that is whenever you are setting up your needle, if you are only letting your needle go out about 2 millimeters, that means that you are going to be riding on your tube. So whenever you're riding on your tube, there's a couple things that happen. Obviously the ink is going to be pushed out, so when you're pulling a line or pushing a line, it's going to smear everywhere and it's going to be hard to see exactly where your stencil is. But it also stops the fact that you're not going to go too deep into the skin, so it won't cause trauma. So if you are first starting out, this is a really comfortable way to get into learning without going too deep and really messing up a tattoo. But with fake skins, things like that, it's great to practice on. You don't have to worry about, hurting somebody. So you could practice whatever way you would like. If you feel more comfortable floating your needle, then by all means do that, which I'm going to show you next, or riding the tube. So I'm going to show you the issues with actually riding your tube. So we're going to make sure it's set up to where it's only going out of the tube about 2 millimeters so we can just ride. And when I say ride on the tube, you're pushing it into the fake skin until the bottom of your tube is rested on the actual fake skin. So we'll start down at the bottom. So I'm going to push it into the fake skin and just let the tube glide across it. Right like that. So you can see that it's leaving a puddle on the actual fake skin to where it's really hard to kind of see all of your lines, especially if you're not dabbing, you're rubbing it. So you want to make sure that if you're using this method that you are dabbing and not rubbing it, or you're just going to lose your stencil completely. You can see that it puddles up, and it can be kind of hard to follow your stencil, and it's really hard to see exactly where your needle is. So if you're first starting out, you're going to have issues with lines not connecting correctly or not being able to follow the line just because it made a puddle mess everywhere. So I recommend to start out this way, but as soon as you feel comfortable doing it, I'd switch off to floating your needle. So we're just going to go through this bottom part with this method so you can see exactly what happens and how hard it could be to kind of see where everything is. But more than likely, if you're first starting out, this is the method you're going to be using, which is okay. It builds up confidence with tattooing, knowing that you're not going to go too deep and mess someone up or rip your fake skins up. But I'm going to show you next exactly how to set your needle up if you are wanting to jump onto floating your needle or just wanting some more advice on what you should be doing. So even if you do ride the tube, you can see that you could create a really nice tattoo while doing this method. It could just be a little bit more tricky. You have to really pay attention, and if your stencil's not on there really great, you could have really big issues with your stencil just smearing everywhere. Okay, awesome. Now that we went through that bottom part with riding the tube, I'm going to set up my machine for floating the needle. So I'm going to turn my machine on and set my needle depth out. You can see that it's hanging out quite a bit. This is set to 4 millimeter stroke right now, so I'm letting it hang out just about to the full extent. The one thing you want to understand is, you can see I put it out the full way. You can see that the needle is protruding from the actual tube. You do not want that. So you want to set it back so that the needle is not over the tube, so you don't accidentally prick yourself, or just let it hang out to where it's going to snag on the skin. So you want to make sure that no matter what, your needle is always back inside of the tube at all times at its resting position, which will be when the machine is off. And then when you turn it on, the needle's still hung out there quite a bit. When you're tattooing this, I recommend holding your machine with your middle finger underneath the cartridge and using these two bottom fingers as your depth finder. So I'm going to be running with the exact same way. My fingers are going to be set, and that's how I find my depth when I'm tattooing, is these two bottom fingers. So we're going to be tattooing in the skin about 2 millimeters, but without having the tube touching. You can see I'm just floating over it, and that's going to make a clean line, and you can see that it's not smearing everywhere. You can clearly see where all the lines are at all times, and I could even see where my needles are. So it could be really, really nice, and you could get really intricate designs done with this method because I could see exactly where my needles are at all times. So this is how I tattoo, and I highly recommend whatever you do get comfortable to switch over to this method, just because riding the tube could just be super messy. It's hard to kind of see where everything is. You could have problems with your stencil just smearing everywhere to where it could be really hard to tattoo that way. And this is exactly how you want to be floating your needle, keeping the same depth the whole way through. And if you have fake skins, I highly recommend trying out this method if you are just working on riding your tube. This will help you out a ton, and you'll be able to create really, really great tattoos and be able to see exactly where all the lines are at all times doing this method. So what's your input on this? Do you ride your tube right now, or you're wanting to get into floating your needle but you're having some issues with it? Comment down below, I'll check them out and be able to help you guys out any way I can. If you have found this video helpful and you would like to be mentored by artists like me and other mentors from Tattooing 101, I left a link underneath this video for you. Inside our Artist Accelerator program, we break down step by step how to tattoo from start to finish, even if you are just a beginner. So if you're tired of trying to figure out everything on your own and want to skip years of trial and error to become a professional tattoo artist, I recommend you check it out. There we go. That is the difference between riding the tube and floating your needle. So what should you be doing? Should you be riding your tube, floating your needle? It just depends on where you're at in your tattooing journey. If you are comfortable riding the tube and wanting to venture out, highly recommend you do it on fake skins just so you could get used to it. Just because, you know, if you do accidentally mess up your depth, you could really mess up someone and cause blowouts on the skin. But if you have some fake skins, check it out, see if you like it a little bit more. I promise you, once you get the hang of it, it's gonna help you create way better lines and just understand, get depth control that much more. I hope this video was able to help you guys out, and as always, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the next video.